still dissatisfaction within the ruling APC. And this is not even about the Presidential Campaign Council list or the relationship between the presidential candidate and the party's national chairman. It's not about that. The vestiges from what is now popularly called Muslim ticket of the APC still lingers and may be snowballing into something more damaging. Now, a group known as the All Progressives Congress Northern Christian Leaders, led by former Speaker Yakubu Dogara and former SGF Babachir Lawal, has restated its position on the same faith ticket and warns of possible grave consequences, while promising to adopt what it describes as a political platform that is pan-national. Now, they resolved to, in their words, so take a listen. Well, let's read through what they said. According to them, they said to work together and jointly adopt a pan-Nigerian political platform that will engender unity, inclusiveness, and a sense of belonging among the Nigerian citizenry. Also said, conscious of multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multicultural configuration of Nigeria, we believe that the same faith ticket and voting along religious lines may trigger dangerous dimensions of negative consequences among disparate people in ways that will hamper nation building. So what does this mean for the ruling party, which today, by the way, inaugurated its women campaign team? We saw the presidential candidate there, the wife of the president there, and other major players within the party. What does this mean for the APC? How can the APC convince Nigerians to queue behind it in the coming elections and other issues which have been raised? Well, our guest tonight is a veteran journalist turned politician. He is a co-director of Strategic Communications, APC Presidential Campaign Council, also former Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC. Joining us live from our Abuja studio is Dr. Danladi Bako. It's good to have you on the program tonight, Dr. Bako.
Thank you, Kayode. How are you? How is Lagos? And how is work?
Well, Lagos, as always, is quite busy and the usual hustle and bustle, not like Abuja, maybe. And that's where our conversation will start from tonight, Dr. Bako. Because, again, this time, we're seeing that same faith ticket issue continuing to trail your party, just like a fire that refuses to be put out or that refuses to die. And there are worries that this might actually burn your party. Some would even say beyond recognition in the coming weeks and months. You are in the comms department, so you represent that block that essentially puts out, the views, the opinions of the party in such a way that Nigerians can be able to accept it. So regarding this same faith ticket that has surged up again, are you worried?
Currently, I'm not by any means worried, and I have no reason to worry. I don't believe that there is a crisis of any sort. There are two ways to look at this. First of all, the main objective of a campaign is to win an election. Whatever you do, in whatever format you structure, whatever you're going to do, most importantly, at the end of the day, you must win an election. Now, the strategies of winning that election depends on who is planning it, who are the functionaries of the party, and all the variables that come into play all the time. In this case, the presidential candidate, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu Jagaba, had the prerogative to choose a candidate of his choice. And having weighed all of the circumstances, having been part of MQ Abiola's campaign in 1991, I personally and physically saw him work on that team, on that project. And I know that with that experience, and the experience of 1999, and experience of today, I do not see the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress as somebody who would make a mistake. He must have made proper calculations. It's human to make mistakes, for God's sake.
Right.
But in this occasion, he has thought it deeply. He went through all of the processes and tried to ensure that the candidate he would pick would be one that can win. Asiwaju Tinubu will probably pick the whole of Southwest, wide margins. He would collect 2 states, 3 states from Northeast, courtesy of his vice president, a gentleman, fantastic banker,
Right.
two-time governor of Borno State, present senator, Kashim Shettima. He'll pick 2 states from the Northeast, and instantly, you know, the president is there to campaign for him in the Northwest.
Well,
By
Dr.
the time
Bako,
you take
it's
the
quite
votes
interesting.
in the Northwest and the Southwest,
yeah.
You add 2.
Pardon me, it's quite interesting you said
progress.
he will pick those states. I mean, from what we know about elections, it's the people that go out to vote for their candidates, not the candidates essentially picking this state. So perhaps that's just a usual speech from politicians sounding very sure, when indeed it's the people that will make the decision at the end of the day.
We communicators work on the people. And Kayode, I travel around this country a lot, from places like Atakumosa local government to places like Ikirun, to places like Arondizogu, to Mayobelwa and Madamawa. So I gauge the mood of the people when I speak, because I've done this over and over again. So I want to assure you that he wanted a candidate that can help him win. That's the first part. The second part of this discussion is that if there's any fear about a Muslim ticket, Kashim Shettima, the vice presidential candidate, spent 500 million naira to rebuild churches in Borno State after Boko Haram insurgency started. Right. This was in 2011, 12, 13, 14. He rebuilt churches with 500 million. He has sponsored more Christian pilgrims than any governor that I know in the northern part of the country.
Well, Dr. Bako, to be fair,
the bishops know that.
You know, these issues have come up time and again. Just so we don't overflog the issues, I imagine that it will form a major part of a campaigning moving forward. I just wanted to point you to that statement, which the group put up. By the way, the group says it's met with even Muslim, party members and leaders across about 19 states and all, and they're concerned that they believe that this same faith ticket and voting along religious lines may trigger dangerous dimensions of negative consequences among disparate people in ways that will hamper nation building. So perhaps that's something to hold on the one hand and just hold on to it and perhaps use it in the coming days. But let's go to some other issues so we can make the most of our time as much as we have you on the program tonight. I couldn't help but wonder, looking at the list of your campaign council, which, by the way, you're on that list as a co-director, I realized that in terms of representation for women, and this is a major one, counting from 1 to 100, first 100 names, I saw only 3 women there. 1 to 100. Then I thought, you know what, let me go ahead. And then I counted from 100 to 200. I saw just 5 names, so just about 0.5% representation. And for a party that says it represents all people, same faith ticket on the one hand, now for women, why such low representation?
I want to show you that what happened today in Abuja was the launch of the women's wing of the campaign. I mean, eminently put together by the First Lady, Haja Aisha Buhari, and the wife of the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate. So that's a major block of the campaign. Indeed, if anything, they have started the campaign today. In fact, they've beat the council to it because they've already mobilized the women. And that is a very key element of voting, because, you know, women come to the polls a lot earlier than us men. We have a way of dragging our feet, but the women are there. The women and youth constitute a major and significant polling number. Today, they came out in Abuja, and they have set the board rolling ahead of us. The party chairman, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, mentioned that the way the women have come out today has, in fact, indeed, taken over the whole system and the whole structure, because you have a clear idea what women can do when they are ready to do it. And then, so does that mean, this occasion, even without the council, the council is part of what they are supposed to do. There is a deputy director general in the council, Hadiza Bala Usman, as high as deputy director general. After the director general, there are 2 deputies director general. That was Adam Soshomole and Hadiza Bala Usman. That's a very big responsibility.
So does that mean that you have
the woman leader of the party?
Pardon me, Dr. Bako, does that mean then, now that you have inaugurated the women campaign team, so the general one is what, men campaign team, and then this one, women campaign team?
No. Of course, as you heard earlier, there are integrations of so many other the list has been expanded, and it will be expanded. In the next few days, you'll find a full council. Don't take the council you're using now as the yardstick, because efforts have been made to add more names. And those names, I assure you, will include women and youth. Of course, you know there's a directorate under Governor Yahaya Bello of Kogi State that takes care of youth and, to a little extent, women. Of course, there is a strong woman leader and the wife of the presidential candidate. And I'm sure it will take care of all of this we're talking about.
You know, I can't help but also remember this statement you made. It was in a radio interview. And you talked about women in governance. And in your words, you said women need to wake up. If they are waiting for people to hand over power to them, they will be making a mistake. And then you ended by saying 80% of the time, women are their own enemies.
True. And I think what has happened now is that there's a gradual awareness that they are beginning to wake up. The efforts of the First Lady today, the efforts of the APC to pick a young female medical doctor, former Commissioner of Health, as commissioner, as the woman leader of the party, has galvanized the youth amongst the women folk within the party. And I think they're going to see a lot more. And I do know that efforts have been made. Of course, you know, President Buhari increased the number of women in the cabinet of the present cabinet we have. We have close to about 8 to so many women. There are quite a few of them. And I think Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will improve on that. They will make sure. And back just before we leave that topic, the issue of the Muslim ticket, remember that in the judiciary, I said that the Chief Justice of the Federation is Christian, the President of Court of Appeal is Christian, the President of Industrial Court is Christian. Somebody will balance out later, win the election, and I assure you that the incoming presidential candidate, the incoming president of the country, hopefully, will assure that everybody gets a space. The space within government is so huge. He will ensure that there is justice and a spread that makes sure that women are integrated, youth are integrated, Christians are integrated.
Right.
By the way, his wife is a senior Christian pastor.
Well,
So
Dr. Bako, I didn't quite get
these clubs.
Right, I didn't quite get the point, that last part where you said women are their own problems 80% of the time. What did you mean by that, quickly?
Yeah, in the past, the kind of internal wranglings, Kayode, I was hosting the NCWS on Morning Ride in 1988. And there was an election for NCWS. And right in the studio, I had the two contestants, one on one side, one on the other side. And on air, pre-election, the election was to take place in that afternoon. And on air, these two women accused themselves on air, live, on Morning Ride. This was 88, 89. And I, as a young boy, I was 31. I was settling a quarrel between 56-year-old, 60-year-old women struggling to be president of Nigeria Council for Women's Societies. I can go on the list of how these things happen, the kind of betrayals. But I think there's a new energy now. They all realize they need to work together, and think in the APC, they're working together a lot. They're working, and they're working. And I can see signs of heavy-duty working that is taking place in the women's wing of the APC.
Well, to be fair, we still do that with men as well. In fact, more with men when you're having conversations, especially on the political space. So, I don't know, maybe you might want to also give statements about men and how perhaps they're a problem of each other. But that's aside. Let's talk about the main issues now. The women, yes, major demography, but also the youth. First, would your party be having a youth campaign team as well, just as you have a women campaign team? And more importantly is the fact that you now need to sell a much older candidate to a population that has, proliferation of young people for 50%. How do you intend to do that?
We do recognize that at the Presidential Campaign Council, that the demographics favor the youth, and we're doing everything to get them involved in the process right from start, so that they can get involved in determining what to do. They are members of the campaign planning committee. In my directorate, in the media directorate of the campaign council, there's a young gentleman who is SA to the president. He's 31, Bashir. He's 31. And Coyote, I'm 65. But I sit at the same table with him, and we discuss, and I listen to his ideas, and we incorporate them as much as possible. And there's a young, not so young governor who is in charge of youth mobilization, Governor Yahaya Bello. And I do think that he has started work, he's doing a lot of work, and I assure you, the way the dynamo that is called Yahaya Bello will succeed in mobilizing the youth for this country. Besides, there are so many pockets of youth organizations that have all registered. You can see the number of youth gentlemen and ladies from Nollywood that have come into the campaign. And that is a mobilizing effect. You can see so many areas where we're interfacing with the youth to get them involved in this campaign. Because, as I said, it's not about, said on another platform, even with the age of President Obasanjo,
right,
he made me a Director General of NBC at the age of 41. So this present candidate of APC is likely to even do so many more appointments for the youth.
Well, Dr. Bako, for a lot of young people,
appointed.
Right, pardon me, for a lot of young people, they look to candidates, at least they would say they look to candidates that energizes them, someone that they look to and they want to be like. And for your candidate, that has been a question that has really dogged him, his health issues, whether or not he's able to carry this through and all of that. So do you think that your candidate can energize Nigerian youths well enough, the way they want to see a leader energize them and motivate them?
Kayode, I have no doubts in my mind that when the campaign starts, you're going to see a very energetic, agile young man. I don't know if you came across the cycling video from London. I don't know what you've seen, but I can assure you that he will energize them. If anything, amongst the candidates, Asiwaju is the person that can connect with the youth. He opens up, he's a very accessible person. He connects with people, he plays with them, he relates with them. His words resonate with them. He can have a good discussion. There are people around him, so many youth that I know. I don't want to call their names on air, but there are so many of them around him, and so many he has done so many things for. And they will pass the message. And I do know he has the energy to energize them. And it will happen. Just wait for us to launch our campaign.
Right, that cycling video you talked about, I mean, some have even asked to see a longer video. Can your candidate cycle a minute? They were saying, let's actually see more than just less than 10 seconds or so that was put out.
Kayode, you will see more. You will see so many more things. Just relax. We are just about to go. We're about to hit the road. So just relax and give us a little space. We're putting all the engines. We're putting all everything. We're starting the turbocharged engines. The moment we hit the road, you will see energy. You will see grit. You will see effervescence. You will see all of it, and you will see dynamism. You will see youthfulness. And you'll see a lot of all what we're talking about in terms of organized campaigns.
Right. So your candidate, or at least your party, has signed the peace accord. But over time, I mean, a lot of Nigerians have expressed concern and worry about these statements and the utterances of the political actors. I mean, the supporters, yes, what they do on social media and all of that, there's a cause for concern. But then from the political actors themselves, and I mean, a case in point, earlier today at that inauguration of the women campaign team, your candidate describing the parties as termite parties, perhaps the rhetorics, and a lot of people will cast their minds back to the statement he made about, other parties, the Labour Party, saying they will labor to death and all of that. And I wonder, can you promise at least that during this whole campaigning process, we'll stay with the issues and not, maybe pander to those rhetorics?
I want to assure you that the National Broadcasting Commission is on top of its game. They would ensure that any stations that allows anybody on a live broadcast to make statements that are vilifying, not edifying, they will call them to order. But I think there's a greater consciousness since the National Peace Committee, led by General Abdul Salam, took over the whole business of setting dialogue standards and parameters for dialogue during campaigns. I think there's a more consciousness that we will only continue to appeal to everybody, us inclusive, to be very discreet about what we say and how we say them. I didn't think that the rhetoric so far has been too vile. I think that we will learn. It takes time to adjust, but as we move on, we would ensure that we try to remind ourselves to be decent and civil in our comments on all occasions, whether on radio or on TV or at live broadcast of rallies. And we owe ourselves a responsibility to be democratically open and inclusive so that we can tolerate other people's views. I want to assure you that at the APC, we're going to work hard at that, and we will do everything we can to ensure that our campaign is clean and our campaign is civil.
So Nigerians can, of course, judge your party based on that. So if they see that, I mean, the violent rhetorics and all of that, they can use that to score which party would actually do well in government. As we wind down, Dr. Bako, let's leave on this note. I mean, questions about when your party will begin its campaign, people challenging your candidates to debate, saying, let's see him actually speak in public for an hour, let's subject him to conversations and all of that. Would your party, or at least let me say, or let me ask that, when is your candidate going to be ready for all of that, such that we can invite your candidate, speak to him on his policies, his plans for Nigeria, so Nigerians can hear from him answering those questions?
Let me remind you that September 28th, that was set for the beginning of political campaigns, was just set by INEC. You can start whenever you want to after that. You take your time, you have 5 months. The most important part is finishing well, and at the finishing line, who comes first? So I want to assure you that what would seem like a slow start from the APC is knitting the house together. When you have a party that boasts of 41 million registered members, you're going to try as much as possible to integrate every shade of opinion, whether they are governors, whether they are members of working council, working committee, whether they are members of local government employees, whatever. Right. So it's a stitching process, and that process is ongoing. And I want to assure you very soon, I think from all indications, in a few days' time, maybe a few more, maybe just about more than a week or thereabouts, I believe that we'll be ready to announce a date.
Well, time is of the essence. We need to analyze the manifesto, help Nigerians understand, what you have in store. But I would like to thank you so much in the meantime. We've been speaking with Dr. Danladi Bako, who is a Director of Strategic Communications, APC Presidential Campaign Council, and also a former Director General of the NBC. Thank you so much. It's good to see you again, Dr. Bako.
Thank you, Kayode. The candidate will look for space to show Nigerians he can talk, and he will talk. And I assure you, when he talks, you will listen.
Thank you.